Hey, it's Molly. Welcome back. Thanks for joining me here on my YouTube channel. I wanted to talk with you briefly about the energies of what we call your big three. Now, these are the energies of your sun, moon, and rising sign. And we call these your big three because they are the first important energies to understand in your astrology chart. So your sun sign is your sense of self, what you are developing and growing in this lifetime around your capabilities, who you are, what you need. And the sun sign energy is where you're meant to be developing confidence in who you are, in how you put yourself out into the world or into your life, how you show up as yourself. So that sun sign is usually the beginning point for most people into the world of astrology, where maybe you've seen the horoscopes and the weekly things or monthly things that talk about what's going on for your sun sign. You understand what that's about. Then perhaps you take the next steps into astrology and go a little bit deeper into your energy. And so the next part of your energy to understand is your moon. And your moon sign is how you receive. It's your receptive energy. It's also how you respond. It's your emotional experience. It's what you take in. That moon sign is very personal and private. And it's more about how you're feeling and moving through the world on a daily basis. And it can be very different from your sun sign. In fact, it can be the opposite of your sun sign if you were born during a full moon. It can be the same as your sun sign if you were born during a new moon. You can also have a moon sign that squares your sun, and that can have some built-in tension where you can have some competing needs. There's a part of you that feels good doing one thing, and then your emotional nature or your private self wants something else. So when there's a square between the sun and the moon, there's things within yourself that you can feel like you're negotiating, there's a push-pull, there's a tension, and it's part of your work in this lifetime to figure out how to work with those energies and how to do so in a way that accepts all of you, all of your needs and all of your energies. So the sun energy is your sense of self. The moon is your internal nature, what you receive and how you feel. Then we have your rising sign. And the rising is also known as your ascendant, and it's how you present yourself. It's how you show up. It's the energies that you put out into the world, how other people identify you or how they describe you before they really know you. Because when someone really knows you, they're getting to know your moon sign. The moon sign is typically the most private part of ourselves. It's our intimate nature. And so the moon sign is more of who you are, whereas the rising sign is how you show up. It's how you share your energy. And the rising sign is also connected to your aura. And it means that how you walk into a room or how you demonstrate something before you speak, that's your rising sign. It's the energy you exude and you put out. It's what other people feel about you. And this is where astrology becomes really fascinating and really specific, because if you have very different energies, right? You have one rising sign that's very different from your moon or your sun, you could feel like people misunderstand me. People don't see me correctly. People don't know me. But what they're really sensing first is your rising sign. Then perhaps they're getting in touch with your sun sign, which is your sense of self. But then that moon sign is usually the last thing that people know. And that's where we can see the kinds of people that we really connect with, where we're on the same page, is through the energy of the moon sign, which can be very different from the rising sign. Now, this can be very complicated because there's so many different energies at play here. But if you can perhaps look at your big three and have greater understanding about the energetic connections, it can help you put together some pieces, maybe around how you interact with people, how they experience you, how they get to know you. Now, there are times, and I've seen this in many charts, where someone has all three in the same sign. Like they're a triple Capricorn. Capricorn rising, sun in Capricorn, moon in Capricorn. So that's who they are. And you could even be a double. So if you have two of these energies in the same sign, you have sun in Leo and Leo rising, you're a double Leo. You could have moon in Leo and Leo rising, you're a double Leo. You could have sun and moon in Leo, you're a double Leo. So there's so many combinations here between your rising, your sun, and your moon sign that it becomes complicated, but also more personal. It becomes very personalized in how your energy is experienced. Now, take for example, your rising sign is how you enter a room, how you experience what you're around, like the environment that you're in. The rising sign can be the filter that you're perceiving an environment in before you know more, before you have more understandings. And that rising sign leads. Okay, so it is the first energy that enters. Then it's usually the sun sign, then the moon sign. Now again, this can be different. I mean, if you have a very strong sun sign in your chart, especially if the sun is in the 10th house, it can be a very dominant energy. And people could sense your sun in the 10th house first before the rising sign. But this can help you understand how you're coming across. And that alone can be really fascinating. Now, between these three energies, rising, sun, and moon, you want to look for the commonalities here. For example, are they in the same or similar elements? Like, are two of them in an air sign and one's in an earth sign? Are all three of them in water signs? Is it one fire sign, one water sign, one earth sign? This could be good to understand because it could also show you more about the people who are in your life versus the people you know out in the world or how people interact with you. So for example, if your moon is in a water sign, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, that is typically a more private energy that requires boundaries around who you allow in, who you interact with, and how you interact with them, because the moon signs need to feel safe to express themselves and to go through what they're feeling. And that's different than perhaps the air signs. The three air signs, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, are much more talkative and social. And you want to be able to share and interact and have some interesting dialogues or connections with people. That's different than the earth signs, the moon and earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, which are the energies of practicality, realistic, being pragmatic, being able to perhaps get something done every day. There's a sense of even needing to be purposeful. And so that moon sign is going to be a very interesting or different energy. And then you have the fire signs. That's where the moon is in Aries, Leo, or Sag. And the fire signs have a lot of motivation, energy, movement, inspiration. They want to be moving. It's a very dynamic energy. So these different moon signs are more about the people that you're comfortable with in your daily life and your daily environment. And so I always look at this in terms of the people we live with, where your rising sign first meets them. The rising sign is the curb appeal of the house. And then you meet them and you look at what you have in common, if you get along, if you don't. But if you're gonna live with somebody, it ultimately comes down to your moon signs and how your moon signs interact. And that can be different than your sun sign. And this is where it becomes very fascinating because of how we have so many different relationships in our lives. And yet there's probably only certain kinds of people that you can jive with, right? That you can like really spend time with. And it's not so much about your rising sign as it is about your moon sign, if you live with them, or your sun sign, if there's someone who really sees you, recognizes you, and it gets you. So if you break these down, you might see some interesting themes and correlations for yourself. You might see a pattern emerge. You might see something show up that you haven't noticed before. But these are good energies to understand in yourself, especially when you're meeting someone new, especially when you're inviting someone into your personal space or your private world, and also to understand who really sees you through the energy of your sun sign and understands more about who you are in this lifetime and how you are growing and developing into more of yourself. So these are just some of the basics of astrology, but I hope it's interesting and I hope it's something that helps you get into more of your own energy and how you're here to be your own unique, brilliant self in the world. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope this has helped you connect some dots in your own astrology chart. I'll be back here every Friday with a new video such as this. Otherwise, please check out my playlists here on YouTube where you'll see many playlists, including these ones that you'll find under astrology workshops. So thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate your likes, comments, shares, subscribes, all of it. Thank you so much, and I'll see you back here soon.